Hello and welcome to News Central Now. I am Dakbo Adigboye. The top stories at this hour. Rivers Governor Fubara orders audit of local government accounts. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, others applauded over war against oil theft and vandalism. President Cyril Ramaphosa sworn in for second term as South Africa's president. Details in a moment. Let's begin by telling you that the political crisis in Rivers State over the local government administration tussle seems to be relaxing following the swearing-in of caretaker committee chairman for the 23 local government councils of the state by the state governor, Sim Fubara. The swearing-in ceremony was performed at the Executive Council chambers of the Government House in Port Harcourt on Wednesday morning amidst tight security. This is sequel to their screening and confirmation by the State House of Assembly at its sitting same day. The governor had sent the names for screening and confirmation on Tuesday, following the expiration of the local government chairman's tenure on June 17, 2024. Let's also tell you that in the meantime, Governor Fubara has ordered the audit of the accounts of the 23 local government areas of the past or for the past 3 years. He gave the order to the Auditor General of the state on Wednesday, while swearing in the caretaker committee chairman of the local councils at the Executive Council chamber of the Government House in Port Harcourt, the state capital. The governor said the audit is intended to serve as a check for the incoming chairman and to make local councils more accountable. The governor also urged the caretaker chairman to protect the interest of their people, not to see themselves as superheroes, and to demonstrate that the government was right in appointing them.
A wrong precedent to be created in this country. It is not about Rivers State, it's not about Fubara, but if in any way this attempt of tenure elongation succeeds in Rivers State, it becomes a norm in Nigeria. So we have taken it upon ourselves to say, not within our own watch, that it will not happen, because it is completely alien to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I found it very clear here that your tenures are not going to be too long, because as a matter of fact, by the end of today or tomorrow, there should be a process for the commencement of elective local government chairmen in our dear state.
Staying in Rivers State, in a dramatic appeal, the All Progressives Congress leadership in the state has called on the federal government to declare a state of emergency in the region, citing escalating violence and chaos. During a press conference held in Port Harcourt on Wednesday, the APC Caretaker Committee Chairman, Chief Tony Okocha, sounded the alarm about the dire situation. He noted that the Rivers State or the state is at war, emphasizing that the individuals responsible for the widespread mayhem and the loss of life are well known. Chief Okocha highlighted the urgent need for federal intervention, stating that declaring a state of emergency is the only way to curb the ongoing violence and restore order in the state. We are now joined by News Central's correspondent in Rivers State, Austin Asu, who is on standby. Thank you for joining me, Austin. Now, what is the situation of things after the swearing-in of the new caretaker chairman for the 23 local government areas of the state?
Currently, I'm at the Port Harcourt City Secretariat. Before now, this place used to be very filled up with supporters suspected to be loyal to the governor. This place was actually condoned off. Nobody can gain access to this place. About 200 meters away from here, you can still see the place still laying, siege, standing by to ensure that nobody goes into that particular local government council. Earlier on, those who were sworn in, the council chairman, the caretaker committee chairman, came in here after addressing the supporters. He intended going into the secretariat, but he was deprived access not to go into the secretariat. As it is at the moment, the tension is gradually reducing. because the technical committee has been sworn in by the governor. It means that power has taken over at the local government area. So everybody seems to be going about their normal businesses, unlike what we had in the previous days when a lot of persons loyal to particular groups came, had a clash among themselves, and reportedly 1 or 2 persons lost their lives, according to the report by the security agencies. As it is at the moment, I think the current situation now seems to be more relaxed, unlike what we used to have before now.
Now, Austin, let's also look at the situation of things, particularly with the residents of Rivers State. How are they taking this development?
Well, we spoke to a couple of them some time ago, earlier this morning. They expressed different opinions about what is ongoing. Some were in support of what the governor has done. Some were totally against what the governor has done. But from whatever they have said, they all agreed on the fact that there's need for leadership, that they would not vacuum in leadership, that either the previous administration continues or the current administration that has been sworn in takes over the leadership. So they both agree that there must not be vacuum in leadership. However, what many of them are looking forward to see is a peaceful atmosphere for them to live, for them to do their businesses without any insecurity glitches, like what they had in the previous days, about 2 days ago, where most of them couldn't go to their various places. Even this morning, those who were supposed to go to their offices couldn't access their offices because there were security barricades that prevented most of them. I even saw school children that were prevented not to gain access to certain areas simply because the security personnel were mounting guard, enforcing the order given to them by their authorities. So in this atmosphere as it stands now, it means that one, peace is gradually returning to the area from what we have seen so far, because before now, this road, you cannot move in and out because the security personnel have actually blocked the entrance in and out. So now the vehicular movement can take place. People can now move in and out. So, but we don't have the security personnel who are just mounting their van strategically at the entrance of the council, preventing anyone access into the complex, pending on when they will have the authorities for them to give any approval for anyone to gain access into the complex. That's according to the police officers who addressed the supporters earlier on.
Now, before I let you go, Austin, let's look at the legality of all of this process, which of course has elicited reactions from some quarters. Some are questioning if at all it's within the constitutional right for the governor to do what he did. Some are even making reference to the agreement he signed with the president concerning, putting up a caretaker committee. I mean, do you have any updates on that or reactions?
Well, yes, from what the governor said while addressing the newly sworn-in caretaker committee, he cited some sections of the Constitution regarding to the 1999 Constitution as altered, that the local government is empowered, is entitled to have their own vacuum in government. However, some other persons spoke to equally told that the part. But as it is at the moment, I think the lawyers will be able to break it down for the understanding of everyone, to look at the legality involved in all these circumstances as happened within this short while in Rivers State.
Austin Azu, thank you so much for the update, and please stay safe.
You're most welcome. Have a nice day.
All right. We'll go on a quick break. When we return, we have more stories. Stay with us. The Kano State Chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Abdullahi Abbas, has called for the arrest of a former governor of Kano State, Rabiu Kwakwanso, saying he is a threat to the security of the state. Abbas was responding to the allegations made by Kwakwanso that the previous administration bred a terrorist and misled the federal government to destabilize the state. Kwakwanso made this statement during a speech at the 85-kilometer road construction flag-off in his hometown of Madobi community. Abbas called on security agencies to arrest Kwakwanso so he could list the names of those he referred to as the enemies working against the state. He also noted that no amount of threat by Kwakwanso could intimidate the federal government. Stakeholders from the 6 states of the Niger Delta region and ex-militant leaders have commended President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, Mele Kyari, and the Olu of Warri Kingdom, Ogiame Atuatse, the third, for securing oil and gas infrastructure and war against oil theft in the region. The stakeholders who made the commendation during a crucial meeting of members of the Pipeline Protection Task Force said despite inheriting a shabby economy and poorly managed oil and gas infrastructure, the president has harnessed the various security apparatus, the NNPCL, the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources, and others to achieve victories against oil theft and pipeline vandalism. To discuss this further, I'm joined by the former president, Ijaw Youth Council, Udengs Eradiri. Thank you for joining me, Mr. Eradiri. Now, let me get straight to it. What specific policies has President Tinubu implemented to combat oil theft in Nigeria, and how, do you feel this has been enforced?
Well, first of all, good afternoon to all viewers. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu only came to strengthen what he meant, which was the policy that President Buhari had put in place to engaging the Niger Delta people in the security of oil and gas infrastructure in the region. And for us, commendations go to the president for strengthening that resolve and also giving the necessary support to NNPC and other institutions to further broaden the scope of the job, where communities are now getting involved directly in the security of pipelines in their environment. And so far, so good. You have seen the number of young people who have been employed through this process, and the oil production have been increasing because that policy is what we have been talking in the past, where we said that the people of the region must participate. However, this is just a stopgap measure to deal with the availability of petroleum products in the country. We must ensure that our refineries are working so that this problem can become one that we will nip in the bud. At the moment, the pipeline surveillance strategy is a strategy that government have brought in place in order for this oil to flow, for government to be able to generate resources. There must be a long-term solution to the problem.
Now, talking about impact, how has the war against oil theft impacted Nigeria's oil production levels and also revenue? And what are the projections for future growth?
Well, first of all, you know that this oil politics, this oil stealing or corruption within the oil and gas sector is something that has been very deep into the fabric of our society. And it's not something that you can just expect the results to begin to happen immediately. However, since the inception of the pipeline surveillance contract, where communities, because I need to stress that, where communities are involved, the people of the Niger Delta leaders are participating, we have seen Nigeria's oil production from nearly less than 1 million to about 1.7 million barrels, and is already projected to go as far as 2.5 million barrels. But there are also other factors that are affecting the production of oil. Of course, you know that most of the oil that is produced today is not going into the ports because the previous administration had gone into certain borrowing and transactions between the NNPC. That most of the IOCs that produce that figure that should have been recorded is what they are using to settle debts and borrowing deals that have been done in the past. But if you go to the Niger Delta today, you will see that the destruction of oil pipelines have reduced since the inception of this process. And environmentally, you can see that we are beginning to count certain gains. So while we are making progress in terms of oil for the country's economy, we are also protecting the environment or doing something towards the eventual protection of the environment, because what is there, we have not looked at removing what already have been used to pollute. But this contract is stopping the further pollution of the Niger Delta. So if you look at it holistically, we are beginning to get to a situation where we'll be counting a win-win-win situation for us. But I always advise the governors of the Niger Delta are yet not participating in these processes. They are not keen in, they are acting as if it doesn't concern them. The governors must begin to come up with policies that will engage their local communities. They spend the monies that they get must be invested in the lives of the people so that few people are discouraged. More and more people will begin to be discouraged from going into destruction of pipelines as a means of survival.
Okay.
Because it's not just the destruction. They want to take that oil. But if the governors are putting back the money they get into their economies, gradually jobs will be created to engage young people. And
I mean, that would lead me to my next question, which of course has to do with community impact. Now, how do you think the government, at the federal level in particular, can actually address the social and also economic root cause, which of course you have highlighted, being poverty? How do you think accountability can be strengthened such that monies meant for development that are given to either the state government, community leaders, are used for the good of the general community?
I think the leadership selection process is a problem. We have a vacuum in that aspect of our society. Our value system is corrupted. Our leadership selection process is where we have a problem. Until we are able to address that and get to the point where leaders are held accountable, it's not just about the oil and gas sector. What of in other sectors? What of community governance structures? How do we now select youth leaders? How do we select community leaders? This decay in the process where everybody wants this godfatherism syndrome. It doesn't matter who the individual is, whether the person has the prerequisite, whether the person is qualified to hold that position. They just pick any person. So if we are able to solve leadership selection process, and then in our lexicon, we get to know that, look, if you do this, people will be punished for bad behavior and there will be reward for those who do well. If we are able to strengthen that aspect of our economy, our country, we will begin to see things going the right way. But as we speak, the entire leadership selection process is faulty. We do not expect it. I was talking to somebody, do you expect Nigerian football to be doing very well when in almost every other sector Nigeria is nosediving? Because we will pick those negativities and bring them to every strata of our society. We need to rejig our governance system, our leadership selection process, and it calls back to true federalism we have been talking about, where we must ensure that accountability becomes the foundation of our leadership process in Nigeria. That way we can begin to deal with the issues. But if we think that we are going to get it right in the oil and gas sector, while we are not getting it right in other areas, then we will be making a mistake. Nigeria must begin to look at how we select leaders, and our value system, we must rethink it for us to make progress.
All right, let's look at the relationship between the military and host communities, particularly, in this war against oil theft, and of course, the security situation, particularly when it comes to infrastructure protection, of this pipeline, systems. How would you rate it so far, given the very unfortunate incident that happened at Okwama?
Well, I think the Okwama issue, like I said before, has a lot of underlying factors that led to it. And so if we go there now, we will not live here today. The relationship between the military and the communities have not been cordial. Only where they work together in the pilfering of the country, then there will be cordial relationship. Anywhere that the military tries to stop what is going on in the region and they come with unclean hands, then there is always conflict. Because what is the instrument of coercion? The gun. So if it is the gun that you use to oppress me, too, I will go and get it. That's what's going on. Because when I see you in the thief with the big one, this small one won't take it. Disabled will not take it. That have always been the relationship. Until the military authorities come to equity with clean hands, the people will always look for a means of surviving, whether the process is right or wrong, because they believe that you too, your hands are not clean. The governors too, they get money at the end of the month. Instead of that money into the economy, they are stealing the money. The people are seeing. They know that it is their oil that was sold to accumulate to the point where states are sharing money. That money that should get to them, that the constitution say, use it for us, they are not using it. Okay, if not that oil, we will take them. And that is what have led to the breakdown of trust, the breakdown of law and order in the Niger Delta, and also in our country, that we are saying that we need to sit down and begin to look at what brought us this far. If we don't go back and correct it, then we will constantly be coming on TV and looking for one solution or the other, whereas we are leaving the root cause of the problem. There's a breakdown of trust. Because when I see you use money that is meant for me for something else and for your pocket, and I know that it is this same oil that you are getting the money from, okay, then me too, I will go and carry that oil. There's a breakdown of trust, the relationship, this whole process of pipeline surveillance and the new administration focusing on what is going on is beginning to put people on their toes. So you see some form of calm, as it were. But we believe that until we begin to be true to ourselves, our refineries begin to produce, so that there's no vacuum set for the people. Because some of them, when they take that oil, they go and refine it the local way to provide for diesel, to provide for kerosene, which are basic petroleum products that the people need to survive. So first, the vacuum that is created, the economic vacuum, need to be filled by policies of government and sincerity of purpose. That way we can begin to sift the bad eggs amongst the lot, and gradually we can make progress.
All right. Udengs Radiri, the former president, Ijaw Youth Council. Thank you for being on the news.
Thank you.
All right. Now to health matters, where the Abia state government says it has not yet recorded any confirmed case of cholera in the state from January to date. Now, the Ministry of Health, however, confirmed 109 suspected cases of cholera reported in 6 local government areas of the state were found to be negative after tests. Now, News Central's Chinwe Ugele tells us more.
While neighboring states like Imo and Cross River grapple with confirmed cholera outbreaks, Abia remains on high alert. Recent reports suggested potential cases in Abia, though the state government has denied confirmation.
So what it means, we have had suspected cases, but on confirmation it came out negative, so we don't have a case of cholera in Abia state.
The situation necessitates preventive measures from the government and residents of the state.
As everybody should be on alert and make sure you wash your hands. If we can practice hand washing, food hygiene, and proper defecation of our wastes, we can kick it out of our shores and from our homes.
And all I need to do is to keep my environment clean, the food I eat, the water I drink.
I don't allow my children to take water from any source. In my school, I do teach children how to be careful.
In my home, I always ensure that my children wash their hands regularly and keep their surroundings tidied up. I ensure that equally they take their bath and make sure that whatever they put in their mouth is clean.
The permanent secretary said government has since embarked on sensitization of the citizens, distribution of medical materials that may be needed to various health facilities across the state. She, however, admonished residents of the state to practice an all-round hygiene over what they eat or drink.
There's a common practice people have in several communities. That's open air defecation. They go and just, even some of them go and defecate inside the river. So those practices are discouraged. Open air defecation discouraged. And the way you handle food, that it's very important. For things like vegetables that we take raw or fruits we take raw, we advise that our people need to wash them with clean water. Sometimes we even advise that they should use salt to wash them so that the salinity of the salt can kill off the germs that may accompany those fruits and vegetables we're eating.
Most residents of the state seem aware of the outbreak in the country and are prepared to stay safe. After all, prevention, they say, is better than cure. It also behoves on every citizen of Abia State to take precautionary measures to ensure that the issue of cholera does not escalate. In Omaha for News Central, Chinwe Ugeli.
Coming up on the news, several deaths recorded in fire at Chad's military ammunition depot. We have details of this and more after now. The news continues in Southern Africa, where South Africa's Cyril Ramaphosa has been sworn in for a second term in office as president, despite failing to secure a majority in parliament for his African National Congress in the last month's elections. Lawmakers re-elected him to stay on as president last week following a deal to form a coalition government between the ANC, its longtime rival, Democratic Alliance, and other parties. The ANC, which has governed since the end of the apartheid in 1994, lost its majority for the first time after the 29th of May election produced no outright winner. Many dignitaries, including Nigeria's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, former President of Nigeria Olusegun Obasanjo, and several African heads of state are attending the ceremony. The ceremony, on a day that the presidency says is a normal working day, includes music and artistic performances, a 21-gun salute, military flybys, and a march past by the country's defense forces. Zimbabwean police have arrested and charged opposition leader Jameson Timber and more than 70 other persons with disorderly conduct and participating in an unlawful gathering over a private meeting held at the weekend. Timber, who took over the interim leadership of the official opposition Citizens Coalition for Change following the resignation of Nelson Chamisa in January, was arrested alongside his son. His lawyer agency, Gumbo, said the group is being held at 2 different police stations in the capital, Harare. Last year, Zimbabwe's opposition faced a wave of arrests after the country's disputed August 23rd elections.
A lot of them are injured. A lot of them have been, they've broken limbs, they've broken legs. We have one woman with a broken leg. She has not necessarily been able to go into a proper theater to get x-rays done. The young people had gathered. It was a private meeting. They'd gathered at a private residence. And the intention of that gathering was to, number one, commemorate June 16, which is recognized internationally as the Day of the African Child. And what we saw on this day is a repeat of the unfortunate incidents of June 16 in South Africa during apartheid South Africa. And we see that in an independent and democratic Zimbabwe.
The charges which have been preferred against them are of participating in a gathering with the intent to promote public violence, bigotry and breaches of peace in terms of section 37(1)(a) of the Criminal Law Code. They've also preferred an alternative charge of disorderly conduct in a public place.
In West Africa, officials of the Senegalese customs have intercepted 3 shipments of cocaine with a total estimated value of more than $50 million in the past 5 days. Authorities made an increasing number of cocaine seizures in recent months from neighboring countries, notably Guinea, Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, and Mali, which are reputed to be transit zones for drugs produced in Latin America on their way to Europe. In the latest seizure, the police said they had intercepted a refrigerated lorry near the border with Mali. Several seizures of cocaine have been announced by customs in recent months, including a 1-ton haul in mid-April in the east of the country near the border with Mali, and several others earlier this month. Burkina Faso has suspended French broadcaster TV5 for 6 months for spreading disinformation and also hit the medium with a fine of 50 million CFA francs. The communications regulator accused the channel of spreading malicious insinuations and disinformation about the country's transitional government. It had earlier suspended French newspaper Le Monde a British publication, The Guardian, and German broadcaster DW. TV5 was already suspended on April 28th for 2 weeks after broadcasting a report by Human Rights Watch that accused the military of killing civilians. Multiple foreign news outlets, the majority French, have been shut temporarily or indefinitely since Captain Ibrahim Traoré seized power in the West African nation in a September 2022 coup. Dozens of Russian military instructors have arrived in insurgency-hit Burkina Faso following an attack in the restive north, about which the authorities have remained silent. According to an African diplomatic source, 2 rotations of planes carrying Russian instructors arrived in Burkina Faso due to the situation. The flights were said to have come in from neighboring Mali, another junta-led nation that has forged closer ties with Moscow. After taking power in September 2022, the West African country's coup leaders expelled troops and diplomats from former colonial ruler France and have turned to Russia for military assistance. In Central Africa, in a tragic turn of events, a massive fire erupted at a military ammunition depot in N'Djamena, the capital of Chad, late Tuesday night, claiming the lives of at least 9 persons and left dozens more wounded. The blaze ignited a series of powerful explosions, lighting up the night sky and causing shockwaves that were felt miles away. Buildings across the city shook as an ordnance detonated, creating a scene of chaos and devastation. Chad's health minister addressed the media on Wednesday, issuing a grim warning that the death toll could rise. He noted that many of the 46 injured are in extremely serious conditions, underscoring the severity of the incident, in which the aftermath of the disaster, some residents of N'Djamena expressed relief at having escaped the deadly blaze, even as their homes were destroyed. The community now grapples with the aftermath of the catastrophic event as emergency services continue their efforts on the ground. Still ahead, Putin in North Korea to boost military ties. We have details of this and more after now. The Russian President Vladimir Putin says heavily sanctioned Russia and North Korea will not tolerate Western blackmail as he visits Pyongyang more than 2 years into Moscow's Ukraine offensive. According to the Russian president, in addition to stating that they have independent foreign policies and reject blackmail, Russia and Korea also say they will keep opposing the practice of stifling sanctions, which the West has become accustomed to using as a tool to maintain its supremacy in the political, economic, and other domains.
И Корея проводят независимую и самостоятельную внешнюю политику и не приемлют язык шантажа и диктата. Инспирированный США и их союзниками бессрочный ограничительный режим Совета Безопасности ООН в отношении КНДР должен быть пересмотрен.
Mexico's President Andrés Manuel López Obrador says a new U.S. citizenship pathway for 500,000 immigrants married to American nationals, announced by his counterpart Joe Biden, is a step forward. Biden attempted a political high-wire act on Tuesday by announcing a citizenship pathway for 500,000 immigrants married to U.S. nationals in a counterweight to his recent crackdown on illegal border crossers. The Biden administration had been struggling to address immigration, a hugely divisive issue for many Americans ahead of November's presidential poll.
Es muy buena la noticia de que van a regularizarse familias mexicanas en Estados Unidos, sobre todo los estudiantes, los jóvenes. Es digno de reconocimiento el que el presidente Biden actúe de esta forma, Nosotros hemos venido insistiendo en la regularización de mexicanos que llevan años trabajando honradamente en Estados Unidos y no se les ha hecho justicia. Esto, como tú lo señalas, aun cuando es parcial, ya es un avance.
Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te says China is attempting to force his country into submission, but the self-ruled island would not bow to pressure. Chinese claims Taiwan is part of its territory and has said it will never renounce the use of force to bring it under Beijing's control. In recent years, Beijing has upped military and political pressure on the Taipei government, with the latest show of force coming 3 days after Lai's inaugurations, which China conducted war games around the island.
并吞台湾是中华人民共和国国家政策，除了用武力以外，近年来更是在运用非传统的胁迫方式，想要逼台湾就范了。但台湾不会屈服，台湾人民一定会捍卫国家主权，维护民主、自由、宪政的生活方式。另外，我们也感谢美国进行对台军售啊。除了美国对台军售以外，其实美国的政府跟国会对台湾的支持，维护台海和平稳定做得更多了。每一次的国防授权法案，或是国会通过了一些稳定台海和平稳定的方案，其实对区域的和平稳定。
Data from the Central Bank of Nigeria paints a stacked picture, with 25 out of 31 lending institutions offering maximum borrowing rates exceeding the current MPR. That's at 26.25% across various sectors. However, 6 lenders provide loans to some sectors at a rate below this benchmark interest rate. On Business Edge earlier today with Perpetual Fasumi Peter, President, Association of Micro Entrepreneurs of Nigeria, Amen, that's Prince Xavier Ichie, elaborated on the realities of doing business for micro entrepreneurs.
Hearing on television or on social media, they are just ends in the on piece of newspaper. As always said, as we have ghost workers, likewise we have ghost entrepreneurs. I will tell you what happened to me. I applied for there was a grant, that is coming for one particular state, which I myself applied for. I applied for 10 million, and they approved the 10 million to me. But when I went to sign the offer letter, that 10 million that was approved to me was changed to 90,000. And at the end of the day, I play along with them. I give them my details. All right. Remember, I applied for 10 million, and the 90,000 offer letter was given to me. And up to today, as I speak here now, that 90,000 have not entered my account. Last time that was LEDC or there about this Smithfield said that they have given 70 billion to micro entrepreneurs, and I challenge them. Let them name and mention the names and addresses of all these micro entrepreneurs. They are given 70 billion. So all these things, let me tell you the truth. All this money they are saying, if really all this money are going for the appropriate people, the situation Nigeria is in now, Nigeria has been classified as one of the highest people that has unemployed people. Remember, this sector, we are the highest employer of labor. So if this money really are going for people like us, I want to tell you, the problem Nigeria is having today will not have it.
Bahia Das Abera faced the Ethiopia Premier League's latest sanctions following Week 27 fixtures. The League Discipline Committee reviewed referees and match officials' report sanctioning only Abera this week. During a match where Abera scored the opening goal, he performed an improved celebration by kicking and breaking the corner post, which required immediate replacement. Consequently, the committee decided Abera must cover the replacement cost. This incident is reminiscent of a similar punishment given to Siadama Bona a year ago for same offense. Tiger Woods has been awarded a lifetime exemption by the PGA Tour to enter all its designated signature events. Woods, who has won 82 PGA Tour titles, including 15 majors, has struggled with injuries in recent years. The PGA's policy board voted to grant him a special exemption to play in 8 lucrative tournaments, excluding majors. Woods is tied with Sam Need for the most overall PGA Tour victories and is second to Jack Nicklaus in major wins. Since the car crash in February 2021, he has featured in only 9 tournaments, making the cut just once this year. Woods is expected to play in the Open Championship in Scotland in July. Former British #1 Emma Raducanu has received a wildcard to compete at Wimbledon next month. She is among 4 Grand Slam champions granted this exemption for the women's singles, alongside Naomi Osaka, Caroline Wozniacki, and amongst others. Now, wildcards are provided by All England Club to players not ranked high enough for direct entry. Raducanu is recovering from wrist and ankle surgeries that sidelined her for most of last year, including Wimbledon. Osaka, Kerber, amongst others, had returned to the tour after giving birth, adding British players Heather Watson, Frank Jones, and Lily Mazzocchi have been awarded wildcards for the women's single. Wimbledon announced the wildcards on Wednesday. The Grand Slams tournament starts on 1st of July. And that's a wrap on the news at this time. But before we go, another look at some of our top stories. We told you that Rivers State Governor Fubaras ordered the audit of local government accounts. We also told you that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, amongst others, have been applauded over war against oil theft and vandalism. And finally, we told you that Cyril Ramaphosa has been sworn in for second term as South Africa's president. Don't forget to send in your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. You can also follow us on social media with the handle @NewsCentralTV. You can watch us live across these platforms. That's DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Dakbo Adigboyi. Bye for now.